What's up, guys? Welcome back to Man Cave Collectibles, coming at you today with another key comic breakdown video. So this is going to be episode 2 in this new ongoing series that we have started for the Man Cave Collectibles channel. Today we're going to look at one of my favorite all-time comic book, movie, and cartoon characters. It's really a team, I guess, not a character, but it is the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. So we're going to look at Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles #1 from 1984 by Mirage Studios. We have multiple prints and copies to look over. We've got a CGC graded 8.0 second print. We've got a CGC graded 9.0 third print, signature series, signed by Eastman and Lard. We also have another third printing here, not signed by Eastman and Lard. This is just a regular, I believe they call that like a universal CGC. This is also in an 8.0. And then lastly, we have the fifth printing, CGC graded 9.0. So I love Ninja Turtles. I collect everything I can. These are the 4 that I have. I have a 4th printing somewhere in my collection. I was unable to get my hands on it, but we'll find it at some point. I'm actually going through the process right now of cataloging all my collection in CLZ, the software database. I may do a video on that at some point if you guys are interested in that. It's a really cool database to try to log all your comic books in. But let's go ahead and let's start talking about what we have in front of us. So this guy was done by Mondo. This was a figure that they did. It's a limited articulation. And the reason I have him out here is because this is a 3D rendering of the original Ninja Turtle that was done on a napkin at a restaurant when Lard and Eastman were just kind of playing around, having a good time. And this is kind of the concept that they come up with. I think even more of a joke originally. So I thought it was pretty cool. I ordered this from Mondo many years ago, and he's just kind of always been a staple in my man cave, and he always sits beside my signature series signed #1 here. So I just wanted to put him out here. I thought he's cool. As far as jumping on into the comic book, so Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles #1 was created by Eastman and Lard, Kevin Eastman, Peter Lard, in May of 1984. That was when the first print dropped. The issue went on to receive many additional prints, with the first 3 being in the same oversized magazine style comic book that we see here in front of us. It's a lot larger than a normal comic book. So by the 5th printing, they had kind of went to more of a normal comic book size, but you can see the difference in them here. If you look at the size of them, you can see that the original prints, the first 3, were a lot bigger, more of a magazine. They were all done in black and white. The first multiple issues, actually, not just issue #1, but there were multiple issues done in black and white. The first print has no print identifier on the first inside page. So that's one way you can look for a first print. Buyers should always beware, however, that second and third prints do have that identifier inside the front page. However, there has been sellers in the past who have bleached that out and caused a buyer to believe that they now have a first print. So I can promise you, if you ever get a first print for a price that seems too good to be true, it probably is. So you want to do your research, ask a lot of questions. If you do happen to buy one, you get it in hand, I would have somebody who is very thorough take a look at that book for you. So just something to be aware of. Also, something to look for when you're looking at different prints is on these, the third print has visually more blood in the T than a first or second print. So if we take a look at this, and I'll try to get it close enough to the camera, if you look at this T here, I'll try to get that in, you can see the amount of blood that is inside that T. And then you look at a second print here, and you look inside that T, there is very little to no blood inside the T. So that's just another way to spot a third print very quickly, which is very good to know. So just something to think about when you're buying these. There's so many prints, it'd be very easy to get things mixed up. Now, as far as the prints, the first print only had about 3,000 copies in circulation, give or take a few based on spoilage or damage when they were filling orders, which makes it an extremely hard comic book to come by. I don't have one. I probably never will, just due to the price, and we'll talk about the price a little bit later on. The second prints also had a very low print run, which helps keep the price of them at a very investment-worthy price. It's a good investment. So it's helping keep them, hold their value. And because the first print has become so out of reach for most collectors, the second print is really a good option to turn to. Low print run, much more affordable. Again, we'll talk about that price a little bit later. The third print ended up getting about 35,000 copies in circulation. So it made it very easy to come by, much more easy than the first or second print, and made the price a lot more attractive to most collectors. Your average collector probably can afford a third print, even in just a mid-grade if they had to, but at least they could say, I've got a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles #1. So that's a little bit of history on the book itself. What we'll do now, we'll go ahead and we'll jump into the actual story of the book. We'll talk about some of the artwork and who first appeared in this issue. All right, guys, so as we open to the first page of the book, we're immediately greeted with an image of the 4 turtles from left to right. We got Michelangelo, Leonardo, Donatello, and Raphael. I'm sure these guys needed no introduction, but as we move on to page 2, we get our first in-story image of the turtles as Leonardo describes his brothers to the reader. By page 3, we get that iconic image that we have seen so many times through the years. So our first 3 appearances of the turtles appear with all 4 on the panel together, basically in the first 3 pages. Page 10, we get introduced to Splinter. At this point, we actually get the origin story of Splinter, the turtles. And on page 15, our first appearance and origin of Shredder, as told by Splinter himself. He's actually just kind of taken the time to sit down with the turtles and give them a little bit of their history. So that spans over the next 8 pages as far as origin. The last thing we'll cover as far as the story is the first meeting with Shredder and the turtles. On page 25, they finally get to meet. A battle ensues that spans over the next 13 pages. One thing to note, these are not the cartoon turtles I grew up watching. During the fight, Shredder takes a katana through the gut and a bow staff to the face, causing lots of blood. This was the original way these stories were written, with a much darker tone. Obviously very different from the more slapstick violence that a lot of us grew up watching on Saturday morning cartoons. So now let's go ahead and talk about our Cgc census on these books. So a first print 9.8, there's only 32 9/8s out there in the wild graded by Cgc, with a total of 931 total books graded by Cgc. This puts it at a Cgc 9.8 ratio of about 3.5%, which is pretty low and hard to come by. Most of these books end up going somewhere like Heritage Auction House for sale versus eBay. The 2 most recent Heritage sales went for $52,000 and $90,000. I'm not sure what created an almost $40,000 difference, as they were only 3 months apart in late 2019. Both were 9.8s graded by Cgc with white pages. So I'd love to really know what caused that big of a difference in the price, 40 grand. It's a lot, considering they were so close. I don't really remember at the end of 2019 that there was a lot of hype going around that would have changed something that fast in between that 3-month span, but would be interesting to know. Now, as far as second prints, what we have here, there's only 9 total 9.8 CGCs in the census. There's only about 50 8.0s, like this one. In total, there's about 452 graded second prints recorded by the census. Now, that's only about half of the number of graded books of the first print, so these are actually more scarce from a graded standpoint. The second prints are. That doesn't mean that it makes them more valuable. There's just less that are graded. This doesn't include CBCS or PGX. I would hope somebody wouldn't take this book to PGX, but again, that's just totally my opinion. To each his own, as far as what company you use to grade with. Because the second print 9.8 is so scarce, there's only one recorded sale that I could find in the last 3 years, which sold on eBay for about $7,500. So still extremely pricey, but certainly more affordable. If you wanted to go with something in the 8.0 range like what I have, one just sold about a month ago on eBay for about $900. Your mid grades, that 4 to 5 range, is going to run you somewhere in a $450 to $600 price range. Moving on to the third prints, like we have here, as well as an 8.0 here. Also, which these are very similar. This one's a 9, this is an 8.0. So this is where, to me, it gets fun and affordable. Multiple 9.8s have sold on eBay over the past 3 months between $1,000 and $1,400. If you wanted something like an 8.0, which is what we have here, this would probably look to be about $300, give or take. Now, I do have, the 9.0 as a signature series, which probably run you somewhere, a 9.0 universal would run you somewhere between about $350, $400. I couldn't find a recent signature series to really know what that value would be, but I would assume that by having the signatures on there at a 9.0, we'd probably be looking at about $200 to $400 additional bucks over a regular 9.0. Just a guess. Again, I don't really have a lot to go on as far as where that value would go. So lastly, I want to speak on the fifth print, which is what we have here. So graded at a 9.8, you're going to pay somewhere in the range of $250 to $300. In a 9.0, like the one I have here, you're going to pay somewhere between probably $100 to $150, maybe closer to $200 on a good day. So it's easily affordable in that price range. I believe you can't go wrong with the TMNT number 1, really in any printing. I don't see these going down as their prices remain pretty steady even through lulls in the comic book industry. We see so many characters that are $20 to $50 first appearance books skyrocket to $400 or $500, and then when things like the movie or TV show hype dies down, you take a 50 to 75% loss, unfortunately. I've done that many times over the comic book. I've made a lot of bad choices over my comic collecting career, where I bought something at its hype and movies die down, TV shows die down, and all of a sudden I'm sitting there with a book I paid $400 for, and now people are selling them away at $150, $200. So, TMNT, I believe that you can invest confidently in these books, knowing that unless we have a major comic book wide industry crash, your investment's going to hold its value and probably even increase over time. And if you were to get some type of movie hype or new TV show hype, that's definitely going to add to the value even more. So just a quick breakdown of one of my all-time favorite comic books, one of my probably top 10 in my entire collection. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please like the video. That definitely helps a lot. Hit that subscribe button. We're going to do these about once a week. I'm just going to pick out random books in my collection. Each week we're going to take one. It's going to be a first appearance, a key issue, a key story. We're going to break it down, talk about the, how many's out there, what you're going to pay if you want to pick up one, and a little bit about the story and the character's first appearance. So definitely hit that subscribe button, hit the notification bell. Hope you guys have a good rest of your day. Until next time.